Amy, can you hear us?
Hi, yes, now I can.
Let's try this again. Can you hear us or no?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, but I can't hear you. That's weird. Um. Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, I think we're trying to get the camera thing sorted so that you could see everyone. You can see me.
I can see you, yeah.
Yeah, just give us 1 second and maybe we can fix it here. How are we doing? Good? Okay. So, this is Amy. And while we get this fixed, and Amy, you're gonna see them very soon. I'm super excited that she's here and she can talk with us. She has maybe until 8:45 or so, because she's gotta run and take a cab and do some more PR stuff, which I think she'll talk to us about,
Yes.
right? And so we'll do the best we can. You know what? Joseph usually just puts this up here, like that. You're in. Are we, oh, you can see that. All right, people, if you cannot be seen, you need to come find the seats here. Okay, get closer. Let's do it.
Good on sound still.
You can hear us, right, Amy?
I can hear you and now I can see the room.
Yay, yeah, okay, thank you. I will.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I'll see you later.
Okay. You just put up here so I can say hello before she gets submitted. Okay. So, guys, she works in real estate PR and, I was actually helping look for internships for you guys, and that's how I got in touch with her. And she has a PR company right here in Beverly Hills. I believe there's one more in New York, but we're gonna probably learn a little bit more about it. So why don't you just get started?
Okay.
I don't want to waste a minute. Go.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Amy Rossetti. I'm the CEO and founder of Rare Public Relations. We are a boutique real estate PR firm based in LA, New York, and South Florida. So our office here is in Beverly Hills. We have an office in New York, and we're growing an office in Miami as well. So today we're going to just talk a little bit about what PR is, and I'm happy to dive more specifically into what real estate PR is. As I'm sure many of you know, you probably don't know a whole heck of a lot of people who work in real estate PR. It's super, super niche, but very interesting. So I have some examples and I'm happy to, answer any questions that you all might have about real estate PR specifically. But really, I wanted to just start by giving a high-level overview to what PR is. So I did put together a presentation, although I don't know if I can share my screen. It says it's locked.
I'll fix it. Check now.
We got it. Thank you. Okay, great. Here we go.
You know what, we should do it.
All right, let's see if we can get this up. Here we go. Okay, fantastic. So I know most of you have been taking this course and have some basic foundational knowledge on PR 101. So I'll skip through some of the slides that I think you probably already know about. So, and again, I'll leave time for questions at the end. So first and foremost, understanding what PR is. There's a lot of misconceptions out there in terms of what PR is. Is PR marketing? Is PR, social media? Is it advertising? And the answer is it's none of those things. So PR is public perception. It's how the public perceives brands and companies, and it's all about perception. More than that, it's about storytelling and very, very, very much about being strategic. So everything we do in terms of, being a PR professional, we're doing in terms of making sure that the company or brand is perceived very positively in the public's domain. So there's a lot of different areas to PR. There's media relations, which is what the bread and butter of what I do day in and day out is, messaging and crisis management. So those are really the main areas that you will, explore in PR. And here, again, I can't tell you how often we get this. I've been doing PR for nearly 10 years, and the amount of conversations and education that we have with our clients about what the difference is between PR, marketing, and social media. I like to explain it as they're siblings, right? They're related, they work well together, but they are not the same thing. So PR, the whole point of PR is that earned media, that credibility. So we're building credibility by earning these results with, third-party publications and working with journalists. Marketing is paid, usually, right, direct promotion, and it's sales driven. And then social media is content that you're creating that you can directly engage with your audiences. Media results. So again, at the end of the day, what our clients are coming to us for are these results, whether that is, in a print magazine, whether that's in a newspaper, whether that's in an online article, whether that's in broadcast or podcast, right? Every company is going to have a different objective and a different point on what a success looks like to them. And then, again, everything we're doing in terms of results is to build that brand trust and that credibility. Sometimes, luckily not for us in real estate very often, but there is crisis and reputation management, right? So just being very prepared in terms of how you would handle, some sort of crisis, whether that's a media statement or, again, working with a client's legal representation to make sure that, we're mitigating any issues. So crisis PR is something that I think everyone should explore, even though you may not ever use it. Like for us, the most we do is craft statements. But if it really gets out of hand, we usually defer to a legal team. And then thought leadership and industry positioning. So anytime you guys are reading articles and you see, a quote from some standout individual, that's thought leadership. And that's really, really, really important as well. Okay, why PR matters. So PR matters for a lot of different reasons, but I cannot stress enough the importance of increasing visibility and credibility. What we educate our clients on day in and day out is it's a long-term campaign. It's a long-term strategy, right? So, you shouldn't be hiring a PR firm if you're looking for quick, instant results and you want to get, 5 articles and then never do PR again, right? It's a slow and steady climb to really building that familiarity and that awareness. So, again, for us, for our firm, we really believe in taking on clients that want to continuously improve and, achieve bigger goals every year. So, I started the company in August of 2020. I had worked at 2 very well-known agencies prior to going out on my own. And, when clients come to us, we tell them, and we have since day one, don't hire us if you're looking for a quick instant result. You want to get one press article and then never do PR again, because you won't see the value in that. So we really pride ourselves in that long-term partnership so that we can continuously grow in terms of how many placements we're getting, what do those stories look like, what are the publications they're in, right? So, the majority of our clients started with us 4.5 years ago, and they're still clients today. And we really are selective when we're looking and taking on work about who are the people who understand how PR works and want that long game. PR matters because you want to control the narrative. So every company has a story to tell. PR helps amplify that message. So understanding what is your story, how do we get it out there? And then building that long-term brand reputation. This is really important. Like I said, I started in PR 10 years ago, and I can't even tell you how drastically the industry has changed from 10 years ago to now, and even over the last 12 to 24 months. So, really understanding and familiarizing yourself with the media landscape is the best way to hone your skills. Um, Again, as I'm sure most of you know, these newsrooms, which were once very robust and had, 50 to 100 people, depending on the publication, are now, half the size, if not even a handful of people. So getting in touch with these journalists is no easy feat. So, these journalists are extraordinarily busy. We talk to journalists day in and day out that tell us, hey, we get thousands of pitches a day, right? And if they're getting thousands of pitches a day, how do they, find your pitch? How does your pitch stand out? So, on making sure you understand that, hey, this person probably has 1,000 emails in their inbox, my pitch needs to be really strong is important. And I think, again, some of the things that have changed fundamentally over the years is, we used to do kind of very thoughtful, meaty pitches. Now, these journalists, they want 1 or 2 sentences. So, figuring out how you're going to convey your client's story or idea to the media in few sentences can be a challenge. News moves fast, so we must be ready to respond quickly. It's incredible how the news will latch on to a certain timely event, and it'll be something that they're covering day in and day out, and then the next thing happens and they're on to that, right? So knowing as soon as something strikes, whether that's, again, for real estate, we watch a lot of the the laws and regulations that can impact the real estate industry. So for example, if anyone's been watching the news, I'm sure you've seen everything is about tariffs, right? Well, tariffs will directly impact real estate, so having our clients be prepared and ready to comment on these very timely news trends, right? So that's what's hot right now. Next week it could be something else, right? And so just making sure your fingers constantly on the pulse of that. And then relationships matter. This is really, 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 really important. So at our agency, we empower every single person that works here, no matter what title you are, what seniority you are, is to build relationships with reporters. Take them out for lunch, take them for a coffee, take them for a drink. Not because you're trying to get something out of it, only because you want to, build an authentic relationship with them. We have, since we work in one vertical, we have very deep, industry relationships. And oftentimes, if we find ourselves in a pickle, we can pick up the phone, call one of those journalists and say, hey, could you just give us feedback, right, on this idea that we can then take to a client? And that's really, really helpful, right? Because at the end of the day, a client doesn't want to just hear, no, they're not interested in your story. They want to know why. And so it's a PR professional's job to make sure that we're getting that feedback from journalists, that if it's a no, they don't want to cover the client or the project or the idea, it's like, why not? So always, again, I did this very early on in my career. Anytime there was a networking event where I knew there'd be journalists, I would go. I would make it a point to get to know them on a personal level, right? Where do they live? What hobbies do they have? Do they have children? Did they go to the same university? And so you can build that very authentic relationship. Okay, newsworthy. This is really important. Not everything is going to be newsworthy, and it's really, really hard to tell clients that. So if you work in an agency and you have multiple clients, right? So we have 20 some odd clients. They believe that everything they're doing is newsworthy, right? And it's our job to explain to them what is and isn't newsworthy. So when we think about what constitutes news, there's a few different categories here that we look at. Timeliness, right? Is it a current event? Impact, does this affect a large number of people? Uniqueness, is this one of a kind? Is this, the most expensive? Is this the largest, right? That makes it unique. Prominence, right? Are there any well-known people or brands or figures involved in this news that we're talking about? Conflict. We try to stay away from this, but sometimes it's unavoidable, right? Is there something happening last year? It was all about the election, right? So it's very, controversial, but there's some important things that need to be discussed, and media wants to know about that, right? And then human interest. This is arguably one of the most important hooks, but does it tell an emotional or relatable story? When these journalists are selecting what stories they want to write about, they're picking them with their audience in mind, right? So is this going to resonate with their audience? And if the answer is no, they're likely not going to write a story about it. If the answer is yes, the likelihood becomes a lot stronger. Okay, mastering the messaging. This is one of my personal favorites. To tell a good story, you have to know your story. So you will encounter a lot of people in this profession that will come and say, hey, I have an amazing story and I really want some PR. Great, that's amazing. What is that story, right? And oftentimes you'll be surprised that they don't know how to tell the story, right? It's a little it's a little complicated, it's a little verbose, it's not really, making sense. And so mastering the messaging, this is what we stress at Rare time and time again. Even if we have clients who've spent, thousands of dollars on branding and messaging, we always say we need to start by making sure your message is very clear and that it's very strong. So, again, defining what is the brand, the who, what, where, when, why, and how, really important. Building trust. Does your message seem, kind of fluffy and not super authentic, or is your message very transparent and strong and, builds that credibility? Are your differentiators highlighted, right? So the media industry is very crowded. With real estate, very crowded. With, beauty, entertainment, these sectors are very crowded with a lot of people who want a lot of eyeballs. So how are you different from your competitors? Again, making sure that your message resonates with your audiences. And then how is the public going to perceive your brand or your company based on this messaging? So these are core to what we do. Again, every agency operates differently, but we believe in starting with the message. If you have a really strong message, it's more likely that your results will come faster, and when they do run and publish, the message will be clearer. I'm almost done with the slides. Then I can show you some examples of press coverage, and then I can answer any questions that you guys have. So power of relationships, this is twofold. So again, we're an agency, so I'm speaking from agency side. It's important to foster relationships with clients and with the media, right? So to have the, perfect outcomes or near perfect outcomes, it's having the relationships on both sides. The side that your client trusts, that you're securing, credible opportunities, that you're putting them in front of reporters who care, who want to write, a positive story. And then on the other end is with the journalists, making sure that, again, the journalists feel the same, that we're providing them with a source that they're going to have, an intelligent conversation with, that, they'll give ideas and, information and data that will help them write their story. So remembering that there's, two sides of a relationship, a client side and the journalist side. So again, fostering trust and credibility. I say this probably 100 times a day to everybody. This public relations is about building credibility. It's about building awareness. It's not about sales. It's not about leads. What we do, right? We work in real estate. Everyone wants to know, well, is PR going to help me sell my, $50 million listing in Beverly Hills? It is not going to do that. It will help you get additional clients. It will help build your personal brand as an agent. It will likely not, I never say never, but it will likely not help you sell a home. Enhance brand visibility, facilitating ongoing opportunities, right? So just building relationships. It's not only just for coverage, but again, maybe there's a future job opportunity that you want, and the journalist works at that, that publication or, with that client. And then you have that opportunity to say, hey, look, I'm not even pitching you an idea, but I'd love to get into, this industry or this job or this company, could you help out? I know a lot of, actually somebody that works for us did that. She had a relationship with the journal outside of just pitching stories, and she saw a job came available. She knew the journalist, knew the recruiter or hiring manager. And so she had that good of a relationship. She was like, hey, could you help, get my resume in front of these folks? And she ended up getting the job. And then, client loyalty. So in an agency setting or environment, client loyalty is everything, right? Again, speaking from our experience, the fact that we're a small shop and we have clients who've been with us since inception, or clients that have committed to us for 2 to 3 years is huge. It's, there is turnover in agency, in agency life where, these clients will hire and after a year they feel like they didn't get the support they wanted, they'll move on to a different agency. So the fact that we have those deep rooted relationships that clients have been with us for so long is really important. And that's the presentation. I will show you guys some press hits just so you have an idea of what we do on a day-to-day basis. And then I'll open up the floor for any questions. I will send around this presentation so you guys have it. My contact information is at the bottom, my email, my cell phone. I welcome you guys to reach out with any questions that you have. Or if you ever need anything, again, I'm always accessible at either of those. So I'll make sure that you have that. And then let me just show you some examples I have pulled up here just so you could get a better idea of what the coverage actually looks like. So let's see. Okay, so here's one. Okay, so here's a great example. We represent a luxury brokerage here in Beverly Hills. It's called the Beverly Hills Estates, if anyone is familiar. And they're a boutique brokerage. They focus primarily on LA real estate. The founders have been doing this for many, many decades. And, they really excel in selling these very high-end, north of $100 million homes. So this is an example of an article that we helped secure with the Wall Street Journal. The client has sold multiple $100 million plus mansions. So this story in particular was the secret to how you sell a $100 million mansion, right? So this image here, pretty striking. This is actually a home that is currently on the market, 177 million. If anyone has a few spare dollars and is interested, very reasonably priced. So this came out earlier this year. And again, they wanted to interview our client on just how do you sell these types of properties, right? Obviously, $177 million is not affordable to 98% of the population. So how do you sell these, right? So ultimately, the journalist, Catherine Clark, she's been writing for the Journal for a while. She knew we represented this client. And so this story is an example of multiple thought leaders. So in here, they interviewed agents in Miami, in New York, and LA who are all selling these types of homes or properties. So there's other thought leaders in here, and then our client, has her voice here in the middle of the story. So this is just an example. Again, this would be considered thought leadership because it's not a profile on just her and just her company, right? It's not a Q&A, it's thought leadership. It's multiple industry experts talking about a trend. So this is an example of what these look like. Always they have great visuals. So making sure that when you're pitching an idea, do you have strong visual assets to support it, right? No one wants to read an article that has no visuals, especially when you're talking about something this grandiose. You want to be able to say, what does $100 million home even look like? And there you have it. So that's one example. And then let's see if I tab over. Can you guys see this Bloomberg article? Is that showing a new page?
Yeah, we see it.
Okay, great. So this is another example of coverage that we secured. So if there's any Chiefs fans in the room, we represent Marquise Hollywood Brown. He plays on the Chiefs. You're probably like, hey, I thought you said you did real estate PR. We do. Marquise plays football, but he also uses his contract, and endorsement money to invest in real estate. So we signed his company in August of last year. They came to us, they had nothing but an idea, right? We helped create their brand messaging, we helped build their website, we helped prep Marquise on how he's going to speak about real estate, right? Like the bread and butter of what this guy does is football. So we helped coach him through to talk about real estate. So this was the launch announcement story. We got it in Bloomberg, obviously a very high profile publication. That's Marquise Hollywood Brown. It's talking about how he's launching a real estate firm. The company's called Platinum Pro Capital. So this is an example of a feature, different than the Wall Street Journal story I showed you. This is all about Platinum Pro Capital, the company that we represent, and what it is that they do, right? So we had to pitch this idea, coordinate the interview, right? And then I think it took several weeks before this came to fruition because there's a lot of fact-checking questions. With high-profile clients, you often have to go through extra hoops. So we had to, work with the NFL to make sure that we were allowed to say all of this. So again, it's not always super straightforward. Sometimes there's additional hoops that you have to jump through depending on, what are the clients you're working for? Are they high profile? Do they have sensitivities and things like that? So this was a great feature. And then let's see, I think I have one more pulled up here. Not that. And here's one that ran over the weekend. So this is just a perfect example of timeliness. So this is all about the, unfortunate discussions around immigration and how is that going to impact real estate, right? So, much of the labor workforce here on these real estate projects are immigrants. And so we had several clients who were really bullish on speaking about how this is going to impact those individuals who have been working with these clients and with these companies for many, many, many years. So this was an example. This is a national story. There's many people quoted within this, and we have two or three clients that have just a quote in here. So again, this would just be an example of kind of breaking news and working on the heels of those hot topics I discussed earlier. So without boring you with more and more and more examples of this, just to give you an idea of how this looks, what is real estate PR and, what are the outcomes? For us, we work across the gamut with real estate clients. So like I said, developers, architects, brokers, interior designers, there's a lot that goes into the real estate ecosystem. General contractors we work with real estate attorneys. So we have a very diverse portfolio of clients, but we are very niche in the fact that we only do real estate PR. So with that, I'll stop rambling. Anybody have any questions? Oh, go ahead.
How did you first get into PR, and then how did you decide to what motivated you or made you create your own company?
Yeah, so I went to school in Boston, and I actually started my undergraduate in interior design. So I was very passionate about design. I ultimately decided to transfer into communications. And then I moved out to LA, went to school in Boston, moved to LA, landed a job at a very small marketing and PR firm. And they did law firms, finance firms, and real estate firms. I quickly realized the law firm, finance firm, not for me, but I loved real estate because I could directly apply what I had learned in interior design to real estate, right? And so the company did both PR and marketing, so I got to test both, and I realized not really into the marketing, but love the PR side of things, love the storytelling and all of that. So it was a small company. I learned a lot. And then really that was when I decided, and within 2 years of starting my career, I was going to be a specialist, right? So that was what worked for me. I wanted to become the go-to real estate PR professional. And so then I went to 2 other agencies that had very large real estate teams. And then honestly, how I landed here doing this, not part of my bingo card. I was never like, oh, I want to open my own company. That was never ever something I even talked about. But what ended up happening was in COVID, everything changed. The company I was working for basically shut down, and people kept calling me because, again, I wanted to be a specialist. So everybody knew that I did real estate PR. So my phone kept ringing of, hey, Amy, could you help us with this project? Could you consult on that project? Could you do this? And after a few months of doing that, I was like, interesting. I'm getting all of these calls. Why don't I just try to establish my own company? And if it works, great. If it doesn't, I can't be in a worse situation. And we'll be celebrating 5 years in August. So it just sort of happened. And every year we've grown. I remember when I started in 2020, I used to say, oh my God, I'll be so happy if we have 4 clients, right? And then the next year I'd be like, oh, I'll be so happy if we have 8 clients. And now we're at 20 clients, right? So it just sort of happens. And again, the benefit for us is that we are small, which clients really do like, that boutique feeling. And we're specialists in real estate. There's a lot of other agencies out there that do real estate, but their teams do maybe other verticals as well. So they might have a real estate division, but they do real estate, travel, and hospitality, right? And so they're spread across those verticals. Whereas our company and our team, all we do is eat, breathe, and sleep real estate. So that was really how that happened. And yeah, it just sort of happened.
Thank you.
You have an office in New York now? Talk to us about that.
Yes. Yep. So with the growth of clients, obviously comes the growth of a team, right? Again, not something that I had on my bingo card. So as the company continued to grow and we signed more and more clients, we obviously needed to grow a team. So we have 5 employees, 3 in LA, 2 in New York. We just opened our New York office in January. So we have 2 employees in New York and an intern in New York. And, for us, we want to be where there is work and potential clients. And as you can imagine, New York is an unbelievable market for real estate, even though it's been challenging over the last few years. And then Miami, right? So we made the move into Miami in 2022 when things were booming down there. There was development left and right. Everyone was still leaving New York and California to go to Miami for tax purposes. And, in COVID, they didn't have the same sort of lockdown restrictions. So we saw that as an opportunity. And so now we've been growing in the Florida area, I should say. So the next obvious step for us will be opening a Florida office. So, again, our goal is not only to grow in terms of the types of clients that we are getting and the locations, but the team as well. So, in 4.5 years, the fact that we have 20 clients in 2 offices and 5 employees, it definitely wasn't easy, but it's exciting and it shows that what we're doing here is working. Yeah, go ahead.
What would like a day in the life of an intern look like for you?
A day in the life of an intern. Okay. So in PR, again, I speak only from agency perspective because that's the only type of PR I've ever done, but no two days are the same. I mean, really, every single day is so different. Obviously, my day to day is going to look different than the rest of the team, but for an intern and we have had a very successful intern programs. We had an intern that was with us for 1.5 years. We love interns and we think there's a lot of value there. The the entry into PR is being an account coordinator, right? And that is really very admin heavy. And I think what the common misconception on that is people get very deterred by the fact that it's admin focused and, you know, it's a lot of research and, you know, organization and taking notes and looking into, you know, different publications and things like that. But everybody needs to start somewhere. And I think those skills are so incredibly valuable that, again, even though it might seem mundane that you're just researching all day or building media lists or doing media clips, right? Or looking for new reporters. It's tedious, it's mundane, but it's so incredibly important as you continue to grow. So, you know, for our interns, we try to really entrench them in what we are working on day to day. So, like I said, helping build a media list, right? Like if you can go into your first job and say, oh, I know how to use these PR softwares and tools, and I know how to build a media list, you're already a leg up from most other people, right? So if our interns come to us and say, we know how to build a media list, I'm immediately already like, amazing, right? I love that. So we, you know, we give our interns the ability to work on media lists, writing assignments, right? So if we need a pitch for a client, we'll have our interns help us write those. Social media for the company. One of the things that, again, in growing at such a supersonic speed, that's fallen by the wayside is the fact that we still have to do PR for our company, right? We do PR for everybody else, but we need to be putting ourselves out there. So our interns help do PR for Rare, submitting us for awards or, you know, putting us forward for speaking opportunities. Or again, there's opportunities like I was quoted in an article last week on communication tips for real estate, right? And that was something that one of our interns brought across my desk. She's like, hey, they're working on this story. Do you want to comment? So we really, you know, as much as it is a lot of admin work, it's admin work pertinent to, again, hopefully that role that you are receiving upon, you know, graduation, that entry level account coordinator role.
Thank you.
More question? Want to be mindful of our time, but we have maybe one more. Go, Layel.
What is the most challenging part about like real estate PR?
Oh, that is a great question. Okay, so most challenging thing about real estate PR. Who in here is a fan of the real estate shows? Does anyone watch like the real estate reality shows? Okay, great. I do too. So the biggest challenge is that most people think that's what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, right? Like I just showed you all that amazing home that's $177 million, absolutely over the top, crazy, crazy, crazy. That is not what we get to work on day in and day out. In real estate, 90% of the time, you are pitching an idea of something that does not exist. So a building, for example, right? We have a lot of our clients are developers. They acquire either a parcel of land or an existing building. And then their goal is to build something new, whether that's, again, condos or apartments or office building, what have you. But this process of building something, ground up or not, takes years. So in a lot of cases, what we're doing is we're pitching an idea of something that hopefully one day in the near future will be built. And that's what makes it very challenging, is you have to be a little bit scrappy and really creative, because otherwise, if you wait, you know, if you're like, there's no kind of newsworthy hook, you might wait 5 years before the project is done. So, you know, I'm looking at our client list up here. I think we have about a dozen clients that have ideas, concepts, but they're not built yet. So we have to still be able to get them in the news, even though there's nothing tangible for a journalist or anybody to go visit, right? These are just like renderings of buildings of what, you know, what might come. So that is certainly really challenging, unlike, you know, beauty or fashion, where you have a tangible good that somebody can, you know, look at, touch it, feel it, smell it, whatever. Real estate isn't that. It's a lot of this is an idea. So that's a challenge. The other challenge is it's very, there's a lot of jargon, right? Like I didn't even realize how much there talk about financing there is. And I'm not a math person. So it's really, it's challenging because there's a lot of, how do you finance a project? And that can be newsworthy. And are you getting loans and what kind of loans and at what interest rate? So, real estate does have its own language in a way. And so again, when I started, that was a challenge to really, learn. And I think too, for the team, because the folks that we're hiring, most of them don't have real estate experience, teaching that real estate jargon, but we've done a great job. We have glossaries, and we have clients that we just look at them and we say, okay, you're going to have to dumb that down for us because it doesn't make any sense. And they usually do. Any other questions? No?
No.
Amy, you gotta go, but I have to tell you something. So we've been talking, and today is the day we're actually going to talk about media relations. So
Yeah.
this is perfect segue, and I'm so happy that you came in, you talked, and I was just making notes as you were talking here. Key messages. You talked a lot about know your key messages, share your key messages. These kids are going to be doing a final project where they have to put together a PR proposal.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that you've just mentioned, that's been amazing. Relationship building, very important. We've talked about it multiple times. You obviously reiterated that. We looked at all of this, guys, from an agency perspective, all right? So this was very different from the conversations we have had in the past. But that was really great that you brought that perspective and you talked about media relationships in that perspective.
Yeah. And again, it's just, so where I'm running out the door to right now is, and this goes back to that timeliness. We have a client, he's a major developer here in LA. He builds these spec mansions mostly for celebrities, NBA players, athletes, etc. And he's building a home in Bel Air that used $8 million worth of steel. And so, as you can imagine, this whole conversation about tariffs is, well, he's been building this home and this is like unbelievable. I'll send you guys this segment, but basically the conversation why we're going to meet Spectrum News One at the home right now is, how do you ever recreate something of that caliber if there's going to be these types of tariffs on already high construction costs, right? So we found a reporter that was working on the story. It was very timely. We made contact with her Thursday. She was like, I need to shoot today, 9 o'clock, right? And so we had to coordinate all of these pieces in very little amount of time. And the result is that our client is now going to be on the news, Spectrum News One, talking about these tariffs. So it positions him as a thought leader, and also this home that he's building that will eventually hit the market in later this year or early next is also getting exposure. So now all of these people who had no idea this project existed will now get to see it on the news. So again, it's just, it is very fast paced, right? Like this came in Thursday, it was like drop everything. And my client had just gotten home from 2 weeks overseas. He's like, I was like, no, we have to do it Monday morning, 9 o'clock, or we're going to miss it. So just always keeping your finger on the pulse and having those relationships with media and being able to know what they're working on and how we can connect them to our clients is so important. So that's where I'm jetting off to. And once it runs, right? So like we'll coordinate this today. It will probably run on the evening news today, if not tomorrow. So that just gives you an idea of how fast these things work. Now, it's not always that way, right? Like broadcast moves quickly, print media doesn't. Even online, like I told you with that Bloomberg piece, right? That took nearly 4 weeks to run because there was a lot of moving parts. We had to, work with the NFL and lawyers and things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, look, it's like I said, no 2 days are the same, and it's never boring. I can assure you of that.
All right, well, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna tag you on LinkedIn, and that way, if the kids want to connect with you, they have your information and they can. But I'm so grateful. So thank you very much for taking the time and doing this with us today.
Of course, my pleasure. Take care, everyone.
Bye. All right, was that fun? Yeah, learned something new. Okay, go take a break. We'll start again at 9.